Alright, let's start this one on a depressing note. Online games, am I right, gamers? Like, ugh. Can you even imagine ruining your perfect, pristine gaming experience by talking to people? Ew! Nah, in reality, the ability to play online with people is probably the most important thing ever to ever happen to gaming. Ever. And games built solely around that, in concept, are quite cool, I must say. Being able to connect with thousands of people who have the same silly hobby as you, and growing in an experience that's almost never ending is the stuff dreams are made of. Expensive as dreams at that. Projects like these require a lot of long-term money going into them and coming out of them. And somewhere along the way, the game's gotta prioritize making that money over being the best it can be. A lot of these games start out pretty good. Most of them will end up pretty bad. But the game we're looking at today lived underwhelmingly and died sorta unappreciated. Red Dead Online basically released November 27th, 2018. It is the online component to Red Dead Redemption 2, though now it's technically available as its own game. A game that, in all honesty, never really found its footing. The basis for this game, Red Dead 2, is great. The online setup taken from GTA Online is great at making money, but this game always found itself lacking in something. It did amass a very loyal group of players, but it never reached the numbers that Rockstar wanted, and plans for future big updates to the game and content were stopped in 2021. I've tried getting into this game multiple times, and made multiple videos detailing why I couldn't. So what am I doing back here? Well, in all honesty, I probably wouldn't have made either of these videos right now if my friends didn't get back into this game a few months ago. This not only gave me a great chance to revisit the main game, but to finally actually sink my teeth into online. After a decent amount of time spent, I've experienced a little bit of everything Red Dead Online has to offer, and found a surprising amount of good here. This video is sort of a companion piece to a larger video I made covering everything I could about Red Dead Redemption 2, so a lot of the context for my opinions on the gameplay and world and things like those are covered in that video. You don't have to watch it. You better go watch it though. Now, I'm not going to pretend I have a very negative bias with this game because, while of course I appreciate all the work that many great people have put into these games, it's clear that Rockstar's prerogative the last 10 years has been on its online services, so I'm still in mourning, okay? Sue me. But at the end of the day, my experience with Red Dead Online was a positive one, and one I feel more confident than ever going over. Hey guys, it's Mad Static, and today I want to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of Red Dead Online, and see what it's really made of. Red Dead Online starts out just like Skyrim. You're a prisoner being prisonered until you are unprisoned. You are freed by a servant named Horley by order of Madame Leclerc, a wealthy widow out for some Red Dead revenge against the people who killed her hubby, the same people who coincidentally seem to have framed you. You're introduced to Cripps, a funny old guy who will run your camp for you, then you do an intro mission, and then you're free to go. Needless to say, this is Red Dead Redemption 2, broken down simply, Grand Theft Auto Cowboy Edition. An open world full of crime and action for you to pursue to your heart's content. Along with some light survival and some hunting put in there, you've got a rough, tough, immersive, realistic Wild West experience. The Leclerc situation gives players some starting missions to get adjusted to the game and its world, but it's not really required. The open world is full of opportunities that you will need to personally travel to because smartphones won't exist in this world for a couple more years or something. Game modes and playlists, odd jobs and telegrams, all available even when you're probably not capable of doing them. All to work towards upgrades to your looks, guns, horses, etc. If you're looking for more significant paydays, you're gonna have to set up long-term investments, mainly the business roles. When you're ready to call it a day, you can have Cripps set up a camp at certain sections of the map. This will serve as your little on-the-go home that you can customize and upgrade to your liking. You can set up posses and recruit random people to help you, or form persistent ones with your friends. And that's most of the basics. After that, you're free to do what you like. This is my guy, Tyson Williams. He likes big coats, baked beans, beautiful scenery, and bread. Not that bread. Stupid. Speaking of stupid, this is my horse, Ami. He's an idiot, but he's my idiot. Last thing of note, most of my business was conducted in the state of New Austin. There's not really a lot going on here in the main game, so, I thought I'd give it some purpose. Alright, with all that introductory stuff out the way, I want to say that this game was always going to have a tough time, even at conception. The main strengths of the actual Red Dead 2 were in exploration of the game world, engaging with the game world in the available ways, and experiencing the story, none of which exactly complement an online experience, at least not as they were. They did try to make these things work. For example, the wavy movement and animations of the player character were actually sped up in one of the updates, which just feels so much better for online. If anything, it kind of proves that the foundations of Red Dead 2 are fun to play, but it's the dedication to detail and immersion that makes the game less fun sometimes. There are a few storylines you can follow, and the acting is still superb, and the dialogue isn't half bad either. But despite all the effort, it still doesn't really work. It's hard to point out because there's nothing specifically bad here, but the setup and scenarios you get involved with and just play out so standardly and safe. There's nothing interesting about them. It's like a GTA Online or GTA 3, just without the self-awareness that your character is a blank template. It's just a story, not a particularly good or bad one. Though at that point, it really doesn't matter honestly. I also think that's why mission markers and activities are so spread out around the world, or why you can't see where other players are on the game map until you're close to them. The developers knew that this world was the crowning achievement of the game, and I think the idea here was a really fun one. When I made my second video covering Red Dead Online, one of my points was how the expansive game world, the lack of player visibility on the map, and a number of other inconveniences made even getting to experience the game its own trial. But now, I'm thinking these inconveniences were probably their attempt to encourage true interaction. Instead of instantly jumping through menus to jobs and missions, you'd have to go out and find opportunity, while free roaming, chance encounters, and hotspots will determine who you meet. This type of limited multiplayer can make a really unique experience, and one that would have meshed well with Red Dead 2's strengths. They tried to set it up so while traveling from point to point, you'd naturally run into players, events, and unique online experiences, and I can really respect that vision. Granted, I'm not just tricking myself into thinking that was the goal. Realistically though, that's not how Rockstar makes money, so that's not how you make money either, or have fun for that matter. Out the gate, one of the game's biggest problems is that it doesn't have any kind of hook. There is nothing to draw players into or reward players for getting invested in the game. Lots of online games, specifically character building ones like this one, will have main missions or objectives or something to sell players on the experience, something guiding players through some of the best things the game has to offer, a taste of what they can really do and earn before having players commit to a bunch of work and or money to it. Red Dead Online does not have that. From the get-go, you're grinding to get somewhere. I guess the Leclerc story and the strangers you meet around the map were supposed to be the game's hook, but along with just not being very interesting, they also pay minimum wage. These missions are not paying any bills, they're not rewarding anything super special, they're only really here for learning and fun. Again, real money comes from setting up business that you put work into and eventually receive huge payouts from, just like GTA Online. It's a formula that works extremely well for Rockstar. Players spend a huge amount of time doing similar content and receive satisfying paydays, or they just pay their way to success because this shit can be confusing and long-winded. The thing is though, GTA Online is a very specific case. The game doesn't need a strong hook or reasonable economy because GTA 5 is GTA 5. People are going to play it regardless. Red Dead 2 though has a lot more caveats, one of the big ones being your player's capability. Frankly, your character is gonna suck ass in the game for a while. Because of this game's mini-survival nature, there is a lot less fun you can get away with while sucking. You'll have like 2 guns that aren't great, core stats that run out extremely fast, and a horse it's trying its best. It's not even the price that's specifically holding you back, it's your rank as well. Until you're a high enough level, you'll just be barred off from a bunch of tools that you borderline need. This leaves new players to run through a series of unmotivating, barely paying missions, or grind daily challenges to help build up gold. The game's purchasable secondary currency that completely destroys any immersion this game has can be used as a substitute for money or to bypass rank requirements on items for a ridiculous price, and is also the only way to pay for a number of exclusive items, including some shit you need for your business ventures. So you're grinding gold so you can acquire roles so that you can actually grind for money. Which, I mean, if you're trying to optimize, all that money you earn is technically going to go towards upgrades to your business so you can make even more. I'm getting ahead of myself, but you can see how uninviting this is for new people. As someone who already played through the main game, stuff like this helped build up a very detrimental question I kept asking myself while playing Red Dead Online originally. With all this boring, tedious work and feeling underpowered, why am I not just playing the main game? Well, the online part, of course, playing with friends and the rest of the community, a community that right now is undergoing some changes. For a while, Red Dead Online was sort of desolate. Not a lot of people beyond the most hardcore Red Dead 2 fans bothered with it, and because of that, everyone kind of got along. It was sort of peaceful. For a large portion of my time, there was an unspoken solidarity between all the people who still stuck with this flawed, abandoned game. But over time, Red Dead Online's player base has been picking up numbers, which is great and good and all that, but naturally, with all communities, with more people joining in on the fun, the higher chance of running into people who are stupid bastard assholes that feel like being dicks and ruining the fun. I'm talking generally, of course, because a lot of the older community are assholes as well. Right now, the community is mostly made up of people who have never played this game before and people who have never stopped playing this game before, with a very slim population in the middle where I fall into. As you can imagine, this makes PvP a mess. The selection is already subpar with not a huge selection of modes to try out. Everyone usually just goes to whatever's doubling money or XP that week, except if it's racing. No one ever races. Like I said in the previous video, the game's horse riding is more about maneuvering and control rather than high speeds and rhythm, which makes it inevitably not the funnest racer. But whatever match you're playing, there is guaranteed to be like 2 or 3 people on rank 400 or something massacring everyone with bullshit like fire bullets or explosive arrows or some broken ass Deadeye ability. When players are pursuing an objective, like making a delivery or getting a bounty, and other players are trying to stop them, the team pursuing the objective is so helplessly disadvantaged that it's not even remotely fair. They sped up the animations for actions, but in the heat of the moment, it's still slow as hell. Not to mention things like wagons and carrying around goods that slow you down even more. Best case scenario, you got a full team protecting the objective, but all it takes is a few incendiary shots, one explosive arrow, or even something as simple as a well-placed headshot on the horses carrying your slow-ass wagon, and you're done for. Realistically, completing these objectives is completely reliant on the goodwill of the few people you run across, which, like I said before, is slowly becoming less and less of a thing with more people arriving. It's just insane how easy it is for characters to become broken. Once players cross a certain threshold, the power is almost completely lopsided. Know what's even worse than that? Most of these game modes don't put a pause on your ammo or anything. So you're spending your own resources to get your ass whooped for like 50 cents. But you know what's even worse than that? If you watch my video on the main game, a big problem I had was how repetitive and brain dead the shooting will get, and the feeling came in full force online. The optimal strategy offline is the only strategy online. You will get a rifle or a repeater because it's the only practical choice. You will aim for the head because it is the only practical choice. And then you will still die because the piece of shit had the invincible Deadeye ability activated. Now, what's funny is you would expect the problem to be even worse in PvE when you're just gunning through mindless NPCs, but actually no. The missions of Red Dead Online aren't just good, they're actually an improvement over the main game's design. The shooting itself isn't the greatest, but it's how stringent the main mission's designs are that amplify that feeling. They don't let you do anything on your own. But considering the online nature here, Rockstar was kinda forced to make missions a little less handholdy, and as a result you've got some pretty fun and replayable missions. It is online content, so a lot of them are essentially the same thing, but there's a good number here that are unique and interesting in their own right. Natural chases are something I didn't even realize I missed until online did them right. Most of the time during the main game, if you get into a chase during a mission, you're usually accompanied by someone. You have to keep pace with them while riding away. You cannot deviate from them or do your own thing or you fail. So it's much more of an on-rail, or should I say on-trail shooter than an actual getaway. But online, trying to headshot enemies, keep up speed, lose pursuers through dangerous terrain, and keep my horse from killing us both? Now that's some exciting gameplay right there. And that's just the simplest example, honestly. There are tons of seemingly simple ways that the missions spice up the regular format and really utilize all the different ways players can mess around in the world. Since you'll probably be coming back to a lot of these missions, it's important that they can play out so differently depending on what you do. Playing these with others also only enhances the experience, which sounds like a given, but I don't know if it's a difference in the game's natures or a difference in the player bases. Probably both, but missions don't go wrong here nearly as much as they do in GTA. The PvP content could be just as fun if it weren't for that gross power imbalance I was talking about, which is why the hardcore series is actually the best game mode here. It can be any game mode except no auto aim, and you can only have the weapons and ammos that the map provides for you. And just like that, almost every problem I had with PvP is gone. Let alone broken Deadeye abilities, it's actually really fun. Know what else is really fun? Free roam events. A bunch of wildly different PvP and PvE modes that will randomly take place while roaming. Contrary to the hardcore series, this doesn't fix or balance jack shit. This is still completely coming directly out of your own resources, and if it's a PvP fight, some OP piece of shit and their crew are gonna clean house. They are definitely not newcomer welcome, and you should only drop into these once you're comfortable with the game and have ammo to spare. Once you do though, they're a pretty good time. They're hectic as hell, and I barely ever win, but it's genuinely fun trying to. What's so fun about them is how they're based on different parts of the gameplay. There's challenges for killing each other, sure, but also for photography, fishing, hunting, racing, as well as objective-based ones that give you and a lot of other players the chance to experience these parts of gameplay together, and it works wonders. Seriously, this is when Red Dead Online is at its best, when it's taking all these different aspects of the game and finding creative ways to implement them into an online setting, and I really don't think there's a better example of this than, surprisingly enough, with the game's role system. Alright, here's how roles work. For the low price of a fucking fortune in real life, you get some goofy ass doohickey that allows you to become a registered specialist in whatever role you're pursuing. So it's like paying for a degree and certification and becoming self-employed, basically. As of the time of writing, your options are becoming a collector, basically hunting down collectibles around the world, which, trust me, there's no shortage of. A trader, who spends a long time hunting game, has crypts turn them into products, which you then shells. A bounty hunter, where you find and capture targets, dead or alive, but let's be honest, alive or you won't get paid shit. A moonshiner, who runs an illegal alcohol operation with a very similar setup to the trader roles, except with story missions now. And the naturalist, who runs around sedating and studying animals. Okay, so the buy-ins are dumb. Like, really dumb. Why am I paying 25 solid blocks of gold for a pristine special collector's bag? Something that doesn't sit right with me is the idea of taking fundamental parts of the main game and paywalling them or holding them off for future progress. But that's an issue that most of Red Dead Online has. Besides that gripe though, I actually started to really appreciate the roles the more I got into them. They're all grinds, sure, egregiously long ones at that, but varied ones as well. You think about grinds in most games, and they're mostly new situations with the same execution. Kill enemies, get XP. Complete objectives where you kill enemies and push a button or something, get XP and money. Do the same mission over and over again that has you killing enemies and pushing buttons in a new environment with a slightly more dramatic fashion to it, XP, money, and one piece of whatever the game uses to advance your character, and then rinse and repeat. Red Dead Online does this too, for that is the nature of the grind, but with each different role, you're essentially putting work into a different type of game. One of the greatest parts of Red Dead Redemption 2 is how multiple types of different gameplay and activities are seamlessly woven into the experience and world, without feeling disconnected, and the specialist roles here are perfectly suited to take advantage of that. Bounty hunters mostly just run around killing enemies, sure, but collectors are fully focused on exploring and traveling the world. Traders are basically playing a hunting simulator. Naturalists are playing a mix of things traders and collectors do. Each of them are their own unique experience, and each of those experiences is fun. Until you've got to do it for the 500th time, but still. I will say, bounty hunting is probably the thing most people are immediately drawn to, which is unfortunate since it's probably the least fun. Again, shooting isn't the strongest in this game, and bounty hunting is nothing but shooting and dragging one person back to the police. Well, except for the tracking ones, but the less said about those, the better this will seem, and this is technically the positive section. There really aren't enough legendary bounty missions, so the fun bounties that are here get repetitive real fast. But trading and moonshining were both good times. Personally, I'm not a fan of killing animals in games. I know they're virtual, but leave me alone. What's important is that I got over it, because Red Dead Online made it lucrative and fun to hunt, so sorry Bambi. Moonshining is a special situation, because the story missions are still not interesting. Most of the gameplay is still shooting people. All that being said, this is probably the fastest and most surefire way to make money, so yeah. Now, I'm talking them all up, but let me be honest for a second. I did not complete the naturalist and collector roles in time for this video. I'm sorry, I'm truly disappointed in myself, and I appreciate them for existing, but you've got to understand, I have been working on these videos since May, and I do not have the patience to run around collecting cards and animal shit right now, okay? I love Red Dead 2, but from the day I'm recording this video, Armored Core came out like 2 days ago, and I'm sitting on like 200 gigabytes of Red Dead footage. I need this shit done! Again, I sincerely apologize. But yeah, the specialist roles are a great innovation on one of the worst parts of every online game that converts the main game's varied gameplay into multiple different avenues of progressing and making money. But at the end of it all, literally, I do still have one more big problem with Red Dead Online. Getting into Red Dead Online is a job. You either need a lot of patience or a few friends to make it through the first 2 or 3 or 20 hours. Once you've settled in well enough, you've still got a lot of grinding to do, but as you become more capable, you feel allowed to have more fun. The real meat and value of Red Dead Online is that sweet spot in the center. But after all the work, after all those hours, what's waiting for you? What was it for? What can you spend your hard-earned gains on? Red Dead Online isn't only lacking in content to get players invested, it's lacking in content to pay off the investment. There's nothing to spend my money on. I was pretty satisfied with my clothes selection very early on in my experience, because there really isn't a huge amount of options to begin with. My guy's got this luxurious bougie brown and black style going on. I can add this coat to add like an intimidation factor. Then there's a Max Bounty Hunter outfit, that was nice. Anyways, Ami is a dumbass, but that boy can run, so I never needed or wanted a new horse. Most of my money in this game was spent on ways to make more money. Once you make that more money, there is stuff to buy later on, but none of it is new or satisfying to unlock. Like I said earlier, a lot of this game's unlockable are just content from the main game spread out across 100 ranks to give players something to progress towards. These aren't even necessarily fun unlockables, they're just helpful. Which sounds like a weird complaint, but hear me out. Think about the stuff you unlock in other online games, like any other online game. They are either necessary upgrades or levels that give you more of the game to play, or unnecessary extras that just make you feel happy to have. Red Dead Online has these, but not nearly enough of them. The most valuable things you can get in this game are things like special wagons that are miserable to drive but help exponentially with specialized roles. A limited array of guns, ammo, and other weapons that were in the main game but held off for higher levels here. And probably the thing I want most right now, sadly, these little pamphlets you can buy from fences that give you quality of life improvements, like storing more of a specific ammo type on you, or being able to cook faster. That's what's fucked up here. In other games, you're working towards cars, costumes, characters, new toys to run around with, new powers to learn and use, new expansions offering entire games worth of content, self-expression, and personality, all very good ways to sucker you into spending time and money. But with Red Dead Online, the ultimate end goal is less inconvenience. And at that point, the question comes up again. Why am I not just playing the main game? From the day it launched to the day of this video, Red Dead Online's main problem remains a lack of content. The nature of Red Dead Redemption 2, whether that be the insane detail put into all of the game's assets, or just the time period it takes place in, must have made creating even the simplest new content a gauntlet. Combined with a progression system and economy that aggressively encourage long grinds, there just isn't enough to make people want to play it, before or after the work. Starting the game is slow, boring, and discouraging, and you find yourself finishing the game faster than you should be because the end goals aren't that interesting or fun, leaving you with a lot to be desired, despite having the means to be. But the middle ground is where this game really redeemed itself for me. The developers found really smart ways to take the strengths of a game that I didn't think could work online, and make engaging online loops out of them. They didn't just take and convert from the main game either, they actively improved on some gripes I had with the main game, finding ways to improve upon flawed systems and design. In that middle ground, where so many of those mechanics I had experienced in Red Dead 2 were fully utilized, and I was able to experience it with a bunch of other people that loved Red Dead 2. That made all the time and work worth it. If you really love Red Dead Redemption 2, and have what it takes to make it to that sweet spot, you'll find this Dead experience managed to redeem itself. And given some time, after a certain 6th entry, it may just rise again. Which, I'm sorry, that's too good of a damn segue. One more time, just to end off these videos, I want the goddamn